Hello, I'm back with Blue Review. It's Henry. Um, I'm going to talk about a couple of Blu-rays that I acquired in the last couple months that didn't make their way into the ones that I reviewed last month and didn't make their way into the 13 Days of Halloween rostrum, nor into my other themes, nor the Criterion titles. So they were kind of orphans. So I got two of them. That's the last of the ones I could afford for the moment, anyway. Um, so, without further ado, I'm going to jump into the one that I have less to say about, but no less, okay, it is less great movie than the second one, but it's still a great movie. It's a stylish adult vampire movie called Daughters of Darkness. This is the Blue Underground release from a few years back, and they recently upgraded their release to a 4K UHD kind of deal, and I can't really afford that. And I don't have to have the 4K UHD, absolutely positively. Um, I'm assuming this is at least a 2K scan of this one, though, but there's not a whole lot of details on the restoration of this. Uh, Maybe if I did a little digging and a little research, I could find some. But anyway, this is a movie by Harry Kamel. He's a Belgian director, and it's from 1971, I believe, and it stars the amazing Delphine Seyrig. Maybe her name's pronounced Delphin. I have a friend named Delphin who is French Canadian and spelled the same way with an E at the end, but I've always pronounced her name Delphine. I'm just going to say Delphine Seyrig, and I'm not saying her last name correctly either, so let's just mispronounce the whole damn name. Delphine Seyrig from last year at Marienbad, the last house on Marienbad. Last year at Marienbad, which was a super classic and inscrutable art house film by Alain Resnais and from the early 60s. And it's just a beautiful, wonderful, luscious masterpiece. Maybe I'll talk about it sometime. I have the Blu-ray that Kino put out with the lovely Tim Lucas doing the audio commentary. But let's talk about this one. So Delphine is she had quite a resume, but this one is kind of obviously the one she's most known for among and horror fans specifically, because she plays Countess Elizabeth Bathory, and that's the lady in real life who allegedly bathed in the blood of virgins. She would have a drought these days, I'm sure, but the thing is, whether she did or not, she was mortal. And there's actually a great movie about her getting ready to come out on Blu-ray called Ceremonia Sangrienta by Jorge Grau, who's living dead at Manchester Morgue, I discussed recently. That's it for another day. Maybe someone will take pity and buy that one for me. My cat's back there making another cameo in the window, by the way. So yeah, she's Countess Bathory, the Countess Bathory. So in this take, she is immortal. She is a vampire, not just bathing in the blood of virgins, but drinking the blood. And she seems to be a lesbian, though. Seems to prefer female company, and she kind of comes into a situation that's set up for us in the beginning. A newlywed couple who have a lot of primal attraction to each other. They're having sex constantly, but there's a lot of tension there. There's a lot of confusion. The husband, played by John Carlin of Dark Shadows, he's very disturbed. He's like all that seething under the surface, and gradually we find out that this seemingly nice guy who's got this, who's on his honeymoon, having a idyllic honeymoon with his young bride, played by Danielle Ouimet, there's more to him than meets the eye, and it's not all great. Some of what is there is that more than meets the eye is not that it's bad in and of itself. It's that he's secretive and hypocritical, and he's conflicted, and he's closeted, and that's kind of probably the root of it. His sexuality is at issue. So he keeps promising his bride that they're going to meet his mother on this grand trip they're having in Europe, and for their honeymoon. And mother turns out to be an aging homosexual man. I guess, in the old politically incorrect days, we'd probably call him an aging queen, because he's very fey. He's very kind of effeminate, not quite drag queenish, but lots of makeup, lots kind of a stereotypical character of that kind in movies at that time. Nowadays, I don't think. Well, if that character were portrayed, because there are people like that in reality, it would be more sympathetically. This character has kind of a slight sinister edge to him, and but he is coming from a place where he knows what he's talking about, a place of wisdom when he's telling young John Carlin, "Hey, what'd you do here, buddy? Like me and you know the truth. What's going on. You're my kept boy." And he doesn't say that, but that's kind of the vibe. And Carlin is like, he's Mr. Tension over here, and then we'll talk to mother some other time. And he keeps blowing off his wife on this subject because he doesn't want her to know he's gay, or at least bisexual. He doesn't want to, confide this. Um, so there's a lot of hang-ups going on in this marriage, and into this comes Countess Vittori, who comes to stay at the hotel with one of her charges, who is a well, she's not a parent, she is a vampiress, played by Andrea Rao, who Bill Lustig of Blue Underground, who put this out, has a massive crush on and calls a goth goddess on the back of this Blu-ray cover. But she is kind of, I could see her being a goth goddess. Now she has kind of a short bob. So she's a little more masculine than, relatively speaking, than Danielle. And so Carlin kind of gravitates towards her. So there's kind of like a sexual byplay between these four characters. There's tension with Tori and the husband, because they're kind of one-upping each other, talking about gruesome true crime incidents. And one of them is about the alleged Elizabeth Vittori, who was her ancestor, who allegedly bathed in blood of virgins. And, the bride does not want to hear all this nasty stuff. They happen to pass a dead body. There have been some murders on the way to the hotel. There have been some murders in the area, and this old detective, he seems to possibly be familiar with her. Maybe he's got a theory, that the detective subplot is never resolved. It's kind of thrown in there like a MacGuffin, like, okay, or is that red herring? And it's kind of like, well, here's this aging detective who's going to be on her trail and reveal her to really be a vampire and the real immortal Elizabeth Vittori, but he doesn't. He's kind of disappears out of the movie about 2/3 of the way through. But it's nice. It's a nice little red herring. And the hotel bellhop, well, he's like the hotel manager now, but he met Elizabeth like 30 or 40 years younger, 30 or 40 years ago, when he was younger, when he describes himself as a young bellhop. And essentially, my favorite word, uh, he recognizes her, and he's kind of stunned. And she said, "Oh, it had to be my mother coming through here, So I guess that's how she's reinventing herself each generation. She's playing her own daughter, and she's probably been doing this for whatever 300, 400, 500 years. Because I forgot what century Vittori originated in, but I don't think it was. Yeah, it was in that range. It definitely wasn't like the 18th, 19th century. It was prior to that. I guess the Dark Ages. Um, so, excuse all my sloppy research. Like I said, I do these off the cuff, just from what's up here. And but I encourage other people who are curious about what I'm saying to research it. Use the hell out of Google, or Bing, or whatever your search engine is, because you can't completely rely on my memory, though it is, it's pretty damn good, but it's not infallible. So you have this kind of sexual quadrangle going on, and basically Elizabeth, the company she ends up preferring out of the four, is the young wife, and she's discouraging the young wife from being with the husband after he goes on quite a tangent and whips her with a belt, and that's not in her repertoire of sexual predilections. So she's not happy about it. I mean, some people might be like, "All right, he's whipping me," but I've dated some people like that. But as far as this young lady, she's very turned off, and with good reason. He's like a festering sore. He's just like a time bomb ready to go off. So his release, so to speak, is the young goth goddess, and they have great chemistry, and they have great sex. And unfortunately, though, he just does some. He doesn't really mean to. He seems to genuinely like her, probably because he feels she's more masculine and less threatening than his wife. But but also timid and able to be dominated at the same time. So there's kind of a little hint of danger and challenge there that I think sparks their brief affair. So post coitus, they're having he's trying to have a shower with her, but unfortunately, the running water problem with vampires. And this goes by all the traditional lore in this film, and she's pretty freaked out by the running water because it could really, I don't know if it could kill a vampire. I can't recall if it actually can kill a vampire. I've seen it kill a vampire. I've seen it just freak them out. I've seen it damage their skin. But she's avoiding it, and in so doing, she cuts her wrist open with a razor blade that she slips on the toilet. And she's already, we've established earlier in the movie that she's getting sick because she needs blood and she has not fed in a long time. So she's probably thinking after this sexy shower, she's going to feast on young John Carlin. But unfortunately, because of her weakness and this slashing of her wrist and the running water weakening her, she's history. So basically, it's incumbent upon the other two characters to hide slash bury her body, and the two other remaining women put it all on husband, who in this scenario is kind of hapless. He did not mean to kill her. They of course naturally assume he did, but this is one thing he's actually innocent on. The only character he's genuinely nice to and likes, he accidentally, he doesn't kill her, but she dies on his watch, so to speak. But only because he had no clue she was a real vampire. So anyway, so this kind of escalates to where, okay, now one less personage in the quadrangle. So Elizabeth has the young lady to herself now, but she's got to dispatch the husband. So that becomes their next objective. But again, it happens kind of accidentally. But that's okay because after it happens, they feast. And so Danielle finally becomes, turned herself. At least that's, we don't see her with bulging fangs suddenly sprouting, but that seems to be the thing now. She's hooked on the blood. And as anybody who saw Ganja and Hess knows, they're addicted to blood. It's pretty bad, man. It's a bad scene. So this is a cool movie. It's very stylish. The music's really cool. The ending's intense, unexpected, and cool. It's just dripping with style. Kumail is a great visual stylist. Classy movie. It's not like an exploitation movie. It's more like an art house movie with kinky sex and all kinds of sexuality and vampirism going on. So it's heavy, man. The original name of it was Lèvres Rouges, Red Lips. And, our man Jess Franco also had a duo of films about these young spy girls, also sometimes known as the Undercover Angels, but popularly known among his fans as the Red Lips Girls. And one of the films is called, I think it's Die Rote Lippen, and it's German, in his German phase, when he was with Janine Renaud and made those, and also the wonderful Succubus, aka Necronomicon. So yeah, the Red Lips I tend to associate with Franco. So I'm kind of okay with the fact that has become popularly retitled Daughters of Darkness, which I'm not sure if that was a grindhouse drive-in kind of title thrown on it to sell it in America. I'm sure I've read at some point the origin of that title, but I don't recall. It could have been an alternate European title, and that's a literal translation. Vampires with a Y, a British kind of counterpart to this film from the same period, slightly later, um, had as a subtitle Daughters of Darkness in some markets. And also Alucarda, one of the greatest nunsploitation slash vampire slash Satanism films ever made, slash lesbian love affair. That great film was sometimes titled Daughter of Darkness or the Daughter of Darkness. So it was Alucarda, the Daughter of Darkness, but in Spanish because it's a Mexican film. But usually now it's just called Alucarda. That's one that needs to be on Blu-ray. And I've heard they've lost the negative and the thing that they mastered the DVD from, the elements. So it's like, good job, Mondo Macabro. But anyway, they're a great company. I'm not dissing them, but that's like the crown jewel of their line, in my humble opinion. My favorite title that they put out. I will be reviewing another Mondo Macabro title pretty soon. And coincidentally, getting back to the Daughters of Darkness Blu-ray, one of the bonus features on here is the entire film, The Blood Spattered Bride, which is also a lesbian vampire film based directly, albeit totally updated, etc., on Sheridan Le Fanu's Carmilla. So it's a great film too. It's not, I don't think it's in the league of Daughters of Darkness, but it's certainly wonderful film, and it's a Spanish film. I love Spanish horror from that period also. So they included that as an extra. It's not a totally restored, remastered version though. And I guess after they had put it out individually on DVD, Blue Underground, or maybe when they were with Anchor Bay, I can't remember which one, but it's the same people, Jay Douglas and William Lustig, and David Gregory, who did their extras, who now runs Severin, another great company I've talked about constantly. So I guess they couldn't keep the Blu-ray rights or got renegotiated. So now, Mondo Macabro put out Blood Spattered Bride, and man, that's a beautiful edition. I didn't get the limited red case edition like I did for the pre-order for Emmanuel in America, which I'm selling. If anybody would like to buy it, I've got it for $62 at the moment, which is roughly what it's going for. Anyway, that's another story. I don't want to seem crass, and but that Blood Spattered Bride edition is wonderful. Mondo Macabro. Maybe one day I'll get around to that too. So yeah, Daughters of Darkness. I'm just eschewing the super fancy upgrade, and I'm going with this one that's on its way out of print. I got this in an auction, so I think I got it for like $20, which is a steal for this right at the moment, even used. So gonna move on to another title. First, I'm going to go ahead and show you something that I'm wearing, which is really cool, which I probably mentioned in one of my other videos, but I haven't ever worn it on camera. That's my All the Colors of the Dark t-shirt. There's Edwidge Fenwick herself right on my stomach. It's an exciting thought. And so, yeah, I love this shirt. It's incredible. It came with my All the Colors of the Dark bundle that I got from Severin. I don't work for Severin, I promise. I don't work for any of these companies. I love these so-called boutique labels, these indie labels that with much less money are able to do as good, if not better, restorations of these kind of films than the Hollywood studios do, and more extras and more just all out, things to geek out over. So I want to support them no matter what. Severin, Blue Underground, what have you. Whoever, Mondo Macabro, they're all good. Code Red, Ron and Flicks. I could go on, but something weird. But anyway, so the next film, speaking of out of print and pricey, This one's on its way up to being very, very expensive. So again, I lucked out. I got it for $25, which I didn't want to spend on a single Blu-ray. I'm trying to absolutely avoid such expenditures unless it's something multi-disc or super deluxe, and I can't get it otherwise. Like when I pre-ordered the Jodorowsky set, because I'm on a very tight budget here. So, I mean, I've got a cat to support here. So, I went ahead and took my chances with this because it's one of my favorite films ever. It's probably in my top 15 to 20 films of all time. And it actually rose a couple of notches when I rewatched it when I acquired this Blu-ray. It's called Cutter's Way. I recently got my friend Sean Lee Levin into this movie, and that was long overdue. This is put out by Twilight Time, and Twilight Time tends to do these limited editions, often only like 3,000 copies, and this is no exception. A lot of people have it for 25 to 35 ish dollars, but some people, used, and a couple new for in the 30 to 40 ish range. But some people are selling it even used already in the, triple digits, getting up to $100 and up. So I got this one just in time. I'd had one in my cart for a while, and I went to go buy it, and it went from $30 to $120. But there were a few other people who were merciful and kept it relatively low. So I believe with postage, shipping, tax, etc., this was $30 altogether. So I got this for a steal. It was used like new. So what's the deal with this Cutter's Way? Well, I first read about it in one of Danny Perry's films. I'm not planning on killing anybody, I promise. One of Danny Perry's films, film books, cult films. And, I was fascinated with it, but I could never find it for rent. So I was like, I knew Jeff Bridges, who's the co-star. He's often given top billing. He's even top billing in this film. I guess he was the most famous actor in the film, even when it was made in 1981. But today, he's certainly by far the most famous name in the film associated with it in any way. But he, to me, is the co-star. It's on him in certain ways, the plot, but not really the prime mover or the engine of the storyline is this character called. So there's Jeff with the blonde hair. He is playing a gigolo out in the sunny docks here I think in Florida, or is it California? It's somewhere with like a bay and a dock and a marina, and he works for um, these wealthy weirdos, and we're going to find out how weird they are. But anyway, this is the main character, Alex Cutter, played by John Hurd. And John Hurd is kind of a chameleon. He has kind of a general nondescript look in a lot of films he's in. In this one, though, he's got the long hair and the eye patch and the beard, and scars here because he was, or is it here? It was here. He's making the well, he was in Vietnam, and apparently some shrapnel or a grenade blew off parts of his body and infected that side of his body. So blew off his arm from here down. It's not clear on how much of his leg is missing. He might have it up to maybe the knee based on how he's moving. And then he lost an eye. So he wears this kind of coat over himself like this. And, this is the days before the strap-on prosthetics were somebody with that much left, were more popular, especially the kind that could move. I don't know if they didn't exist then or they just were not affordable. They weren't as common. Not that they're probably not affordable today with our awesome healthcare system. But that he doesn't have one of those, so it's kind of his performance is like this. There is a scene or two where you see the stump, and that's how I'm able to describe it. Great makeup. I don't know how they. I have some ideas, but I'm not sure how they actually got his real arm behind his back and were able to put the prosthetic thing on here, because this was before CGI when you could like just CG out the missing limb, which is one of the great functions of CGI. I always think that's brilliant. And same with fire. You don't have to set stuntmen on fire anymore and risk them dying. You can, duplicate flame. CGI. I'm not against that at all. I have some friends who are, well, friendly acquaintances who are like militantly anti CGI, and it's just a tool, people. It's just like a camera. It's just like a computer. It's what you do with it. It's what you create with it that matters. So anyway, enough of that. What's the story? Well, like I said, he's a Vietnam vet, and his buddy Richard Bone, played by Jeff Bridges, is an old friend of his. He didn't fight in the war. He's kind of had a fairly lucky life, kind of no responsibility. Um, he walks away whenever there's trouble, a bad scene. Uh, Kurt's performance is just amazing. And whenever Bone decides, I got to get away from this, he does, as Alex Cutter says, he does that walk. Do that walk, Rich. Do that walk. And that's kind of what he's saying, that I know you're always going to walk away and let me down. And that's kind of the crux of the conflict of these two characters, is they get in over their heads in a situation. It's a murder mystery, which initially Richard comes upon, a body in a dumpster, and he saw the guy put it in the dumpster. And I think at first he didn't know it was a body, though. And then he gets called in for questioning. He's cleared. But then who is this guy? And based on his descriptions and things he says, it sounds as though it's his boss's boss at the marina, this incredibly wealthy guy named J.J. Cord. And Richard doesn't want to get involved with this. It's like, we can't handle this. This is over our head. Let the police handle it, Alex. And Alex is like, nah, man, we got this guy by the balls. We're going to blackmail his ass. And then when he coughs up the money, we're going to throw him to the cops and make an example of him, And he's like, these people, none of them care about people like me. We're like the refuse of society, while they're kind of high and mighty here. And it's pretty deep and resonant, the things he says. More today, even by far, at the dawn, this was at the dawn of the Reagan era. So think of now, in the age of the oligarchs, and this is more relevant and resonant than ever. So a working class vet, handicapped, like Alex Cutter, trying to gain vengeance or justice for the murder of an innocent by this rich guy who believes he's above the law. Wow, yeah, this stuff's pretty heavy. I recommend people to watch this, especially if you're involved in such areas of interest. Alex is married. His wife's played by Lisa Eichhorn. I have not really seen too many things with her. This might be the only one. And her and Richard have had kind of a sexual tension for years, but she never got with Richard because she loved Alex more. And this was before Alex got damaged in the war. And of course, she stayed loyal to him, which is really saying a lot. And she didn't cheat on him with Richard, but there is that constant temptation. And so the closer Alex and Richard and the victim's sister get to unraveling it and really catching Cord as the murderer, the more strained Alex's marriage becomes, the more intense the sexual tension between Richard and the wife, Mo, becomes, and also the more dangerous it becomes to everyone involved. And one of the characters is kind of sacrificed on the altar here, made an example of, in order to say to these two cats, you need to back the fuck off, because we've got the power and you don't, and we're going to crush you if you try to go up against us. And that's essentially, reiterated by a character named George, who grew up with these cats too, and he's Richard's boss at the marina. And Cord kind of holds the strings on this guy. Not only did he employ him and kind of bring him up, but we also learned that he was his father's business competitor, drove him out of business into suicide, and essentially, or maybe it was an accident that ended up killing him. But it was essentially this man Cord directly caused George's father's death. And so this guy's got like, skeletons in his closet all over the place, this cord cat. And his wife is real snoopy, and she's protective of him because that's her, purse strings attached to this, multimillionaire, bon vivant clown who we don't see for most of the movie. We don't hear him talk until near the end of the film, played by Stephen Elliott. And so it's kind of interesting. You're trying to kind of keep up with Alex's surmises, and Richard, who's his best friend, even thinks Alex, or maybe wishful thinking, thinks Alex is crazy with all this, and even his wife thinks he's just out of his depth completely, which he may well be. The victim's sister, though, totally is with Alex, and there's a little sexual tension between them, but it doesn't really play out between her and Alex. But I thought that was kind of cute and charming because, they were expecting that she was going to sleep with Richard in order to persuade him to, well, actually, she did kind of try to sleep with him to persuade him to help them more with the case. But he rejected her, and, he did the right thing in this case. And so Alex kind of hits on her, and it's kind of a charming little scene. I mean, it's nice to see this guy who's so, maimed, at least, having some confidence with this young girl. I don't mean she's underage, calm down, but, this younger, beautiful girl. And, but, he doesn't cheat on his wife. Unfortunately, it doesn't run both ways, but, Alex is a character. I mean, that's kind of the core of the movie. It's not so much just the plot, but this character, Alex Cutter, is an immortal cinematic character. He's, I've already gone over his physical state and his appearance and such, and his views about, some of this political and social stuff. But he's an aggressive guy. He has an explosive temper. He carries his cane everywhere, and he often smashes things with it in a frenzy of rage. And he also has a very dark and bitter sense of humor, and I find it usually pretty hilarious, the things he says. Some of the things, though, he goes too far. I mean, he drops the N word on a black guy at the pool hall, and it's like that's not going down too well. And so some of the guy's friends come over, and it's like it's tense, and he just keeps talking and keeps getting in deeper. And Richard Bone, Beth Bridges, tries to diffuse it, and basically kind of succeeds by saying, "Hey, look at him. He's been through the war. He's not all here." And so that's what happens a lot of times. He gets in a terrible fight with his neighbors, and it still boils down to it. Richard's bailing him out all the time, but when Alex really needs Richard is, they have a weird up and down dynamic, and it's a very realistic friendship, and it's really powerful, and it's very authentic and touching. And in the end, God, I'm almost just going to cry thinking of this, because really the ending of the movie, I do cry every time I watch it, because you're really rooting for Alex to get through this stuff, and things turn out worse than even he thought. And that's when our Mr. Bridges has to step up to the plate and either do or die, baby. And we see his choice. So if you want to see it, you need to watch this movie as soon as humanly possible. So now that I'm overwhelmed with wanting to see this movie yet again for catharsis, I'm going to go ahead and bow out. But I appreciate you watching, and I'll put up another one soon. So rock on. Take it easy.